Kantipur Conclave.
The next session is tourism, product to experience. In Nepal, for a very, very long time, I think we have been talking about tourism products. We have the Himalayas, the birthplace of Lord Buddha, the lakes and mountains, base camps, and the temples. But how do they make us feel? The future of Nepali tourism is not only going to be based on products, but on experiences. Visit Nepal 2020 is also on the theme of lifetime experiences. Tourism is one of the mainstay of Nepalese economy and is also a major source of foreign exchange and revenue into the country, and that is why we got an economist to moderate the panel here today. Mr. Chandan Sapkota is a senior fellow at the Nepal Economic Forum, and we would like to thank him very much for flying in from Japan to be here. So I'd like to request the moderator and all the panelists for this session to kindly join us on stage. I can see our panelists are walking in, so I'd like to request all our panelists to take their seat on the stage. This session is tourism, product to experience. I've explained about the theme of this session, and once again I would now like to remind all our guests that please do send in your questions through the app of Kantipur Conclave. We have 60 minutes on the clock, during which we will complete the panel discussion and the question and answers if there's anything from the audience side and from the viewers who are watching us live from YouTube. So now I'd like to request our moderator, Mr. Chandan Sapkota, to kindly carry forward with the session.
Hi, good morning. My name is Chandan Sapkota, and I'll be moderating this session. We have in here an amazing group of panelists representing a very broad spectrum. And we have Anil, who caters to the budget market, comes from Oyo Hotels. Big group, has international presence. And we have Shradha from Nepal Tourism Board, doing a lot of work on branding. We have Vijay from Dwarika, doing a lot of amazing work for high-end tourists, and then trying to be a kind of role model for that kind of sector. And then we have Monika, who is working on heritage, tourism-related heritage and cultural preservation stuff. How do we make it sustainable kind of stuff? So we can cover everything related to tourism. So we'll try to focus on certain things that are related to the national goal. So before that, let me give you a kind of perspective on how tourism is positioned in Nepal. Tourism sector is one of the sectors where we have comparative advantage. And it has the potential for, it is one of the sectors which has the potential to structurally transform the economy on two fronts. One, growth. The entire supply chains related to travel and tourism industry, for every $1 you spend, for every 1 rupee you spend in this sector, the return is more than 1 rupee. So that's called a multiplier effect in the tourism sector. And then if you look at the employment, for every one person employer, for every one visitor we have in this country, the employment multiplier is like times 5. So we have, the tourism sector is giving employment to almost 5 million people, and we have 1 million visitors. So if you can simply work out the maths. So tourism sector has potential for both as a multiplier for growth and employment, and crucial for growing at more than 8-9% for this country. And if you look at the trend of inbound visitors, it has been growing by almost 25% consecutively for 3 years now. And if you look at the month by month, there is no kind of off-season these days. It's kind of amazing in Nepal, you don't have an off-season market. And this mostly is attributed to the Chinese tourists and Indian tourists. If you look at compositions like 17% Indians and 13% Chinese. Right? And in terms of spending, the amount of money that we are earning as a country from tourism sector is almost 2.2% of GDP. It's like $650 million US dollars. That's a quite amount of money. And the average length of stay is not that increasing. It's like 13 days. That's where we have to increase per visitor average number of stay in the country. And then if you look at the average daily spending, it's just like $40. So we'll be revolving around these questions and how to jack these things up. And one of the other things about Nepalese tourism sector is the net receipts that the country receives from tourism sector is in negative. So that means more of our people are going outside for tourism activities and spending more outside than people coming and spending here. So there is a kind of imbalance in here. We need to think about it. So from this perspective, we will anchor today's discussion on two things. One, the country has a vision, a goal to have 2 million tourists by 2020. That's like 1 million more than in 2018. Now, given the scale of infrastructure we have, is it attainable, or is it in fact a good goal? Shall we be focusing on more per capita spending and having the same kind of multiplier effect rather than focusing on 2 million tourists? And it has a whole slew of consequences for sustainability of tourism products in Nepal and these things. So we will be focusing on these things, and then the target market, what is the segment that we should be focusing on, and then the competitive services and infrastructure. With that, let me jump into the questions. Let me ask the first round of questions to our panelists. And I would like to ask, starting with Anil, what he is doing in his sector and what his experience is like. Can you, all of you, give a brief on that one, please?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. I am Anil Goel, Group Chief Technology and Product Officer at OYO. At OYO, we are on a mission of providing quality living spaces to everyone worldwide at an affordable price. We are a real estate and hospitality technology company that aims to improve real estate and hospitality experience through advanced technologies, and thus by reducing the cost of operations, improving the experience, and offer that quality, consistent, predictable, high-quality experience to guests at an affordable price. We started in India in 2003. Since then, we have grown to be the largest hospitality chain in India, among the top 5 hospitality chains in China, and one of the fastest growing hospitality chain across the world. I'm really excited to be here. This is actually my first visit to Nepal, so I'm looking forward to also learning from experts on the panel more about Nepal and share some of my experiences from the globe.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Shrestha. I am working as the manager for brand promotion and corporate partnership in Nepal Tourism Board. My main job includes brand positioning of Nepal, and I'm also involved with the latest Visit Nepal 2020 campaign announced by the government. I've been with the tourism board since 14 years now, so I think I'm old enough to say that I've seen the worst and the best days of Nepalese tourism. And since I'm working in the brand development, I think I'll be sharing most of my experiences in the sessions which is to be followed. Thank you.
Hello, good morning. My name is Rene, Vijay, Shrestha, Einhaus. I work with the Dwarika group. I'm the executive director at the Dwarika group. The Dwarika group, we are a family business. Was started by my grandfather. I'm now the 3rd generation in this family business. We are 100% Nepali brand, and we try to portray Nepal in a different light. We try to put Nepal on the map for upmarket tourism, creating unique experience, Nepali experiences that are perceived to be at par with the best experience worldwide. We try to bring out, we have 2 properties where we try to bring out one a cultural and architectural experience, which is the one that we have in Kathmandu, the Dwarika's Hotel, and then we have our second property which is a bit out of Kathmandu, which is focusing on the natural beauty of Nepal and the Himalayan lifestyle, with introducing the clients to the symbiosis of the Himalayan lifestyle between Hinduism and Buddhism.
नमस्कार सबैजनालाई मेरो नाम मोनिका हो I am Swiss from nationality, but I was born and partly brought up in Nepal, so I have a strong connection to this country. My parents were mountain lovers, and they took us trekking. Like every school holiday, we would go trekking to one or other remote area, which at that time wasn't really known even. So I went to Everest Base Camp at the age of 8, the first time I was there, or we went to Jomsom when there was no road there and no one ever thought there would ever be a road. So I watched these spaces develop in partly positive ways, like the infrastructure coming up, hospitality coming up, people welcoming tourists, also initiatives of taking care of the waste, for instance, in Sagarmatha Pollution Control Committee. But I also observed a lot of changes which were worrying me, like a road coming into Annapurna area. Like nowadays, you would walk along a dusty road for a lot of the stretches. You see masses of tourists going up to Everest Base Camp, which sort of bring the area to the brink of its carrying capacity. So I always carried this concern of how these mountain spaces develop. And so now I'm back here, I'm an entrepreneur. I work with people here, with partners here in sustainably developing these areas, taking care of these areas so that they will be precious and unique and beautiful also in the long term. So this is, on one hand, we do infrastructure projects, so we build sustainable, holistic tourism infrastructure, but I also offer conscious trekking tours with a different kind of approach to trekking, which is more about experience than product.
Thank you all. So, by now you might have guessed the broad range of things we will discuss it in here, and it will be very exciting. So let me start with the second set of questions. In Nepal, in abroad, there are 3 products in tourism. Abroad, there's Lumbini, as mountains and trekking, and then you have cultural heritage. So 3 products, basically. I mean, you can have a subset of these if you want, but that's where our focus is. And then we also want to have 2 million tourists. That's like double the amount we had in 2018. So my question to Anil is, because he's better position to answer this one because of the amazing market segment that they have been able to cater to in Nepal and throughout the world. What is your view about Nepal having 2 million inbound visitors target, and can we achieve it? And anything that you want to share in terms of international experience on how to cater to, how to have that many visitors and how to successfully cater to them?
Sure. So being a company of Indian origin, Nepal is very special to our heart. The 2 countries share hundreds of years of bonding. We share 28 border points, probably more than any other countries in the world. We allow our residents to travel to each other without requiring passports or visas. That's a very unique relationship we enjoy. We started here in Nepal in May 2017. In last less than 2 years, we now have grown to over 2,000 rooms. These are all exclusive franchised rooms that we standardize through technology across 120 hotels across Kathmandu, Pokhara, and Kiratpur. The learnings from our global experience, today we operate in 8 countries. We operate in India, Nepal, China, Indonesia, Malaysia, UK, UAE, Philippines, so fairly large segment of world covered there. One of the common learning we have had is if you create right mix of right location, right quality, and right price, there is infinite demand you can create. So there is not a lack of living spaces, but there is a lack of quality living spaces, and that's where OYO comes in. We partner with small independent property owners, provide them end-to-end technology to standardize their experience, and then help them provide that consistency of experience to guests every single time at an affordable price. By doing that, the guest who was previously hesitant to come, not sure about what their experience would be, will they get the right quality accommodation, you end up creating them as a repeat guest. This has been our learning in India, this has been our learning in China, where in less than a year and a half, we have already grown to be 275,000 rooms in China. And these rooms are all running at a very high occupancy, 60, 70%. So coming to Visit Nepal 2020 mission, which is bringing 2 million tourists, doubling it in 2 years, I believe it's very achievable. Nepal offers this incredible mix of, as Chandan said, opportunity for tourists, opportunity for pilgrimage with Pashupatinath temple, for adventure seekers, for trekking. So there is incredible amount of stuff people can do here. If we provide them the right experience, that mission is very achievable, and we at OYO are looking forward to be partner in
Let me, before going to Shradha, let me ask a question to Anil, top up on that. What kind of experience would you want to give to a visitor so that we can achieve that target? Or what exactly are you talking about experience on that front?
From OYO's perspective, we focus on providing quality living spaces. So we want to make sure every guest that's coming to Nepal will have a quality accommodation. They know what experience they are going to get. Our standard experience provides complimentary breakfast, free Wi-Fi, clean linen, predictable high quality toiletries and other amenities in the room. So by having that, guests can really focus on what they are here for experiences, whether it's trekking or mountaineering, whether they are here for pilgrimage, but not have to worry about the living spaces. So OYO will focus on providing that quality living space so guests can then spend their time on what they are here for.
Thank you, Anil. Now let me move to Shradha ji, because she's working on Nepal Tourism Board for a long time and has probably worked, we had 2 rounds of Visit Nepals previously, and we're going to have one more round, 1998, I think 2011 to 11, and then 2020. So how are you branding the tourism sector, your efforts in branding tourism sector, effectively branding, to achieve this 2 million target? How are you doing these things?
Since you've mentioned the other 2 campaigns which we've done earlier, I would like to go back to 1998 when it was, Visit Nepal 1998, where the theme was Nepal of its own. So that time, Nepal was just beginning the tourism sector, and we wanted to introduce Nepal to the whole world. And second came 2011 when we said Together for Tourism. That was the theme aligned for Together for Tourism. And that was very important because, we saw a relatively very bad season in the tourism industry. We had the insurgency and things like that. So we wanted to bring every people, every industry together for tourism. And now, after, let's say, a decade or more, we have come up with another campaign, national campaign, that's Visit Nepal 2020. And this was another important event because, we've gone through a massive disaster, the earthquake, and so after the earthquake in 2015, people thought, international community thought that Nepal was completely rampaged and there was nothing left. So we wanted to give a positive information that, okay, we are back in the business and we are all set to, welcome you in the country. So this is, again, a different branding for the campaign. And you just, when you were asking to Anil ji about, you said that there were 3 products in Nepal, culture, and mountaineering, and you said something, Lumbini, yes. But I would like to differ from that because, Nepal has so much immense potentiality. For a person who has worked in the marketing department for 14 years, been working in the branding, that's the difficulty we are finding, how to brand Nepal. Just one word which can explain everything in Nepal, right? So we came up with Naturally Nepal branding in 2007. So that time, the perspective was different. People thought about more destination activities and itineraries. But the paradigm has shifted so much over the decade now. The travel trend, the global tourism travel trend has shifted into more authentic experiences. They have like 4 different things. So first being, that specialization, second being the technology, third being the authenticity and the experiential travel. So specialization, people want to get, they want to get something unique of what they're paying for. And technology, we all know that, okay, now people are so into social media and so digitally connected that everybody wants, the packages in their palms, within their forehands. So the people in the tourism sector say that, after 5 years, maybe the travel agents and the tour operators are going to be obsolete. So that is the technology thing we're looking at. Number 3 is the authenticity. Now people do not go for, like the itineraries, but they seek very unique experiences they get from the place. And specialization is, our CEO always says that tourism is no more like sightseeing, it's more like sight feeling. So people today wants to live with the people and live the place.
Thank you for that. Now let me go to Vijay, and because he comes from a segment, a very interesting segment, and they've been the leading entrepreneurs in this sector for a long time. I'd like to get his views on how should Nepal position itself in the broader tourism market to either achieve the 2 million target, or if you want to increase per capita visitor spending. Right?
So I think it's a very important question, and there's always I think one has to define exactly what are the assets Nepal has to offer to this world. Yeah, as we always said, we have a natural beauty which is unique in this world. I think being a Nepali to say, I would say you cannot find this anywhere else. We have a cultural identity with this unique blend between Hinduism and Buddhism, which is also very unique. We have wildlife, and then we have the spiritual side, spiritual tourism to it. So there's tremendous potential. But from our perspective, we need to use that potential correctly. When you look at these products and you define the experience with these products, in our opinion, let's say, the mountain experience is an experience which you want to experience with very less people around you. It's an experience of solitude. You go to the mountains, you trek by yourself. You don't go to the mountains and walk with 100 people next to you. The same is with wildlife. When you go to wildlife, I think the experience you want to have is by yourself, or maybe with a couple, or maybe 4 or 5 people, but you don't want a traffic jam while looking for the tiger. So the question is our infrastructure ready to host 2 million people at this stage? Or is this actually going to diminish the experience which we have to offer today? As Chandan has said, if the numbers which was, I think, $40 per day, $40 per day spending, the same impact could be, let's increase that $40 to maybe $80. Let's increase it to $90 per day. We'll have the double amount of income. We'll have the same expenditure by increasing, because our tourism incoming numbers is about, I think, 940,000. So increasing it to 2 million would double the income. There's different ways to get more income. But I think it's very important, and Nepal at this stage is very lucky, yeah, because at this stage, internationally, what I see, yeah, I mean, we cater more to the upmarket segment, so what I see from our clients, from the shows that I go to, the feedbacks that we receive, the luxury segment is moving towards this experience that Nepal has to offer. So for us, spirituality is becoming very, very big. These solitude experiences of mountains is becoming very, very big. Adventurous experiences becoming very, very big. But we need to be able to cater to that experience. So when we call the people here, we have the 2 million people at our doorstep. Are we able to give them an experience where they're going to go home and they're going to say, wow, I'm going to come back to Nepal for my next experience? That's the question one needs to answer. And how do we portray these experiences? To make an experience is not very easy. we try to give very different experiences everywhere we go, and for us even to do that, it takes a long time to be ready to welcome a guest to our establishment, to being able to satisfy a guest and make him go home and say, yeah, I paid $500 a night, but this is more than worth it. So my aspect would be maybe focus more on the asset and brand that asset in a different kind of way. Also, there's so much untapped potential. Chandanji was talking about Lumbini. I don't think Lumbini would be ready today to host 2 million tourists from the infrastructural development. There is other places like Janapur, the birthplace or the home of Sita, the birthplace where Ram and Sita met. There's tremendous potential to develop new products in Nepal. But I think we first need to develop the experiences and then call the people. Because we should have the people go home and say, you know, Nepal once is not enough. At this stage, I think we have 4 products which are ready, which would be Kathmandu, Chitwan, Pokhara with the Annapurna, and Everest. That is the main, you know, attractions where people go to. Is that ready to cater to 2 million tourists? At this stage, I don't know. But if we have, let's say, 10, 12 products where we can disperse the tourists to, I would happily say, yeah, 2 million tourists is a great target. But at this stage, I would say, let's develop our experiences, let's increase the per capita spending, and then let's go for the next step.
Thank you. So, as I said before, see, we have a very broad range of panelists in here coming from different perspectives. I'll come back to this one to nudge you a little bit on this one. But before that, let me go to Monika and ask her a question about her views on this 2 million target and its implications on preservation of natural and cultural heritages in Nepal. Now, how do we make it sustainable? Please.
Thank you. Is it okay? Is it on? Yeah, okay. Thank you, Chandan. Well, to be very honest, this 2 million figure, it scares me because as also Vijay said, I'd like to follow up on that. I don't see Nepal to be ready to accommodate 2 million tourists in a sustainable way. Maybe you could sort of spread them in the existing infrastructure. I don't know about those numbers. But what to me is much more important than looking into the growth of tourism at the moment is to looking into the quality of infrastructure and quality of service we can offer, and quality also in terms of how we take care or how it is being taken care here in these tourist destinations. Because this unique asset Nepal has to offer in terms of natural beauty and cultural heritage, it has to be taken care of in the long term. Otherwise, these 2 million people will come running around these areas, and eventually this tremendous potential will get lost to a spread of infrastructure, to uncareful development in these areas. So there's various ways you can do that. So for one, as I've mentioned, there's the infrastructure, the tourism infrastructure. So for instance, in Chitwan, we are looking into a way of building homestay tourism in a holistic way, where you look at all the components linked to that particular accommodation. So you look at where does the energy come from? Is it renewable energy? You look at where's the water coming from? Where's the wastewater going? What happens with the waste? Can it be reused, recycled? Can it be avoided? Because eventually 2 million people will bring a lot of waste in whatever way, and this has to be taken care of. Otherwise, it'll accumulate, and 2 or 3 years later, people won't want to come if there's a huge rubbish pile behind the house. So that's one thing I'm looking into, or I'm encouraging Nepal to think about if it's about developing tourism in terms of numbers. And for me, I also very much agree on Vijay's comment on, let's think about, maybe it's more about heightening the revenue per capita, because if you have a good service, if you have a good quality, if you have this tremendous asset you can offer to the people, that has a value, and the value has a price. And if you have a good quality service, if you have a holistic accommodation, people will enjoy more, and they will be ready to pay that price because it has a value. So I think that's very important to think about.
Thank you, Monica. Picking on this thing about this value and things, because these, if people are happy with the services and the upkeep of the natural heritages or what they came for to see, and they are satisfied with, then you will have repeat visitors, right? So, and from what I know, Dwarika has been incredibly successful in terms of these repeat visitors. So what kind of experience, I mean, are they looking for, or, I mean, how do you ensure that somebody who has come to Nepal would still want to come to Nepal after a few years?
I think it's very important to firstly understand, and that's what we do when we market ourselves. We don't sell the Dwarikas first. We first sell Nepal, because I need to convince my client to come to Nepal. He needs to choose between Japan, Cambodia, Laos, or Nepal. So I need to convince him first to come to Nepal. So I need to first sell him, okay, you can do these things in Nepal. And then when he's come here, okay, now I can sell you Dwarikas. Now I can tell you, okay, this is an accommodation where you can stay. But he comes to see Nepal. So first I need to convince him about the country. So that's why it's so important that there's a conclusive experience, where we focus on, building up an experience that is long-term beneficial to the tourists, where the tourists go back. And of course, for us, the retention of clients is very important. So whatever we do 100%. For us, quality, attention to detail, and attention to each aspect of the experience. Once you enter Dwarikas, till the moment you leave Dwarikas, you need to focus on each detail. It's from the welcome, it's from the way the bed is made, from the way you serve the good night chocolate, from the way the food is served, from the attitude of the staff, from what kind of background music is played in the lobby. Everything needs to be conclusive. It has to be a conclusive experience. It has to go one direction. There's one goal, and that's what we move towards. And every single thing needs to be according to that goal. And that's what I would wish also for Nepal, because we have that potential. If we wouldn't have the potential, okay, but we have that potential. And honestly, till now, I think it's still mostly untapped. So we have the potential to move this. I don't say everybody needs to do high-end tourists. That's not what I want to say. There needs to be all range of tourists coming to Nepal, but it should be still, even though it's different budgets, it should still be a conclusive experience. We should still focus on the same way. We still should focus on what makes Nepal unique in this world, because we have a possibility to brand Nepal. And that doesn't mean I need to brand it as a $500 destination or as a $40 destination. I'm talking about I can give a Nepali, local, authentic experience that people can enjoy and where they get quality for whatever money they pay. That's what I want to do. It doesn't mean it's only what we do. It can be another side, but it has to be a conclusive experience. You can have an authentic local experience for $50. You can have an authentic local experience for $500. Doesn't matter, right? As long as the client gets, okay, Nepal stands for this type of tourism, and the beauty of this is exactly what Nepal could stand for is what people are looking for today.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. When you have value for money, then when you realize there is value for your money from the services being provided, there is a tendency that you tend to visit that place again because you feel comfortable, it's cozy for you. So I want to move to Anil on this one. So because you are like a mass market in here, you came in and make a splash, and then catering to a really good segment of the tourism market. And I would be interested to know what you are doing, what you experience with repeat tourism, repeat visitors, and if there is more potential for it, because per capita spending tends to be higher on repeat visitors because they feel comfortable coming, plus they see value for money in it, right? So we'd like to hear from you.
Yeah, first of all, I agree with Rene and Monica that you need to make sure everybody who is coming have the right experience. They experience the unique Nepal product they are here for. That said, at OYO, we are a much more optimistic company, and we believe 2 million mission is very doable. Coming back to our own experience, we are less than 6-year-old company that started in 2013. If you would have asked anyone at that time, nobody would have believed that we can get to 450,000 rooms in less than 6 years. We entered Nepal less than 2 years ago and already operating 2,000 rooms here. So we believe if you focus on standardization, you can provide guests a great quality experience that they expect, and you deliver it every single time, and it can be done at the mass scale. Of course, there is a great room for unique experiences that a niche segment of travelers expect. And it's probably not 2 million niche travelers that will be coming to Nepal, but we do believe there can be travelers who are coming here for pilgrimage, travelers who are coming for mountaineering, trekking, and other experiences, that they can get a good quality experience at an affordable price. And more people experience Nepal, they would become brand ambassador for Nepal, which will then in turn bring more repeat tourism every year. And it's a cycle which will automatically bring in more investment in infrastructure. So we see this as a positive cycle that you bring in more customers, they experience it, they bring your ambassador, that brings more investment, which brings more customer, and it becomes a virtuous cycle. So we do believe both the experience can be maintained and that kind of scale can be achieved. And we are definitely excited to bring our expertise here in doing that, which we have also shown by running 2,000 rooms consistently here with great quality experience.
Thank you, Anil. Now, we are so far, when we talk about tourism industry, we always tend to focus on international tourism. There are domestic tourists as well, as equally good segment and with very high per capita spending comparatively. As I said before, when I was giving a brief introduction of tourism sector, more Nepalese, the amount of money Nepalese are spending outside for travel and tourism activities is actually higher than what inbound tourists are spending. There is a disconnect now. We're trying to promote tourism sector, but more of our people are spending money outside, more money outside. So if you look at the balance of payments, it's a transaction of our country with the rest of the world, the net receipts is like negative, right? So we are not earning the kind of foreign exchange reserves we should be earning. So from that perspective, when we talk about tourism sector, are we neglecting the domestic tourists? So my question to pretty much all of the panelists in here is domestic tourism important? And what exactly do you think should be done to bring this to the fore, like we talk about international tourists to Nepal? Right, please. Starting with Shradha.
I think domestic tourism really plays a big role in the tourism sector of Nepal. That was much realized, after the earthquake, I would say, because that time I was in Pokhara. So, there used to be off seasons and high seasons back then, but the inflow of the domestic tourists have, somewhat, there's nothing called off season right now. So the influx of domestic tourism is so much. So destinations like Muktinath and Jomsom and Rara, these have become very much popular by the domestic tourism. That's why, considering the importance of the domestic tourism, even Nepal Tourism Board has given a very significant priority to the domestic sector. And we had this Gumbhir Barsa, which was dedicated especially for the domestic tourist. And right now also when we communicate the marketing strategy, when you communicate the positioning of the brand, we are doing a lot in the domestic market. Talking about branding, we have started the provincial branding, which we thought could bring a lot in the domestic tourism. We've started doing the provincial branding with the states who has names. So we have done a bit of exercise with the Gandaki province. First, we've done an initial workshop, and even the people have realized, the importance of it. Before, I myself have, witnessed the negativeness. I would like to say the negativeness of the trade towards the domestic tourists before. they thought maybe the white skins are more important than the Nepali tourist, and we've been, put into that matter. So, but now they've realized that domestic tourists are also the goose who lays the golden eggs. So the priority has been transferred. So now if you go to places like Jomsom and Everest Base Camp or Annapurna areas, they would prefer a Nepali customer to a client from the third country, because the expenditure a Nepali family does is more. So this is very important, the domestic tourism aspect, and Nepal Tourism Board is doing a lot to promote the domestic tourism.
Thank you, Shradha. Let me come to Monika on picking up that point. What role do you see of the subnational governments? When we subnational governments, we say local bodies. We have 753 local bodies in this country, and if each local body can have a unique piece to promote tourism in the sector, be it a park, be it a water boating, or be it some cultural heritage site, temples, and all these things. So what is your perspective on local bodies promoting these products, these tourism products that they have, in a more sustainable way? How can they do it? What do you think about it?
Well, first of all, I think it's very important that the local bodies take care of their touristic assets and the touristic service or offers they have, because they ultimately know the uniqueness of their particular place, and they can build on that. And eventually they're the caretakers of that area, and they live there, they've been living there for ages, they have their culture, so it's up to them to develop their particular space. And as I mentioned before, I think it's very important to look into all of the components linked to tourism. So starting from how do they come there, what's the mode of transportation, do they come by road, do they come by air, how can we ensure that coming there is already an experience, and is an experience which is positive for the visitor. Then we have the whole resource question, like where do the resources come from, where does the water come from, where does the waste go, and in my opinion, also very, very important is how can we anchor that experience in the local setting? Because people, as we've heard now from various of my colleagues here, it's really about experiencing the uniqueness. So, and uniqueness is anchored in the local setting. So this village or this municipality or this region, what's particular there, and people want to come and experience that lifestyle. So if you, for instance, if we go to Chitwan or the region of the Terai, what is specific there? Like what's specific in this village? Maybe, and then maybe the accommodation can be built in that style, and that doesn't have to be a Dwarika's high segment. That can also be very, I'd say, simply built. Yeah, you use local materials. You include the local people build that based on traditional architecture, because that's ultimately the experience. We don't want to stay in. Talking now from my own experience as a traveler, I don't want to stay in a standard concrete place. If I come to a beautiful traditional village, I want to stay in those houses. I want to feel, what does it feel like to live in these thatched roof places? It looks so comfortable, it looks so cozy. I want to experience that, sit at the fireplace in the evening, see how the food is being cooked on the fire. That's like, wow. We have electric cooking stoves. We don't remember what it's like to cook on the fire. So all these specific, and I guess for the local population, it's like, oh, this is our poor lifestyle. We want to offer the tourists something better. But actually, the tourists want to experience particularly that lifestyle, which has a value. It's rooted in your local setting. So yeah, and one very beautiful example for me is also like the food we eat when we come to that place. We see rice fields everywhere, we see vegetables we see all these products being cultivated in that land, and we want to try that. We want to try the rice of that particular place. We don't want to have cheap rice imported from somewhere just because it's cheaper. And there again, we come to the issue of value for price, quality. That's the point, yeah.
Thank you, Monika. Now, let me So when as you heard from the panel, some are very optimistic that 2 million tourists, we can increase more number of visitors in this country, but then some are worrying about the carrying capacity and whether we should be targeting the high-end segment or upper middle high segment. So are we, this is the question to Vijay and Anil, starting with Anil. Are we heading in a situation, given the state of infrastructure we have and the ambition in terms of bringing in the number of visitors, are we heading the Malthusian way? In economics, you have this Malthusian theory where population grows so high and you run out of capacity and it crashes and then you go to the sustainable level again. So are we actually in the tourism sector heading in that way when we target too many visitors without looking at the carrying capacity in terms of infrastructure, the entire supply chain is related to this one, right? From procuring vegetables that you use in your hotels to the human resources you have, the trainings that need to be given and all these. So after we bring in too many tourists, then they realize the services are shoddy or not to their expectation, and then they start dropping down, and then we think about the high-end kind of increasing per capita visitor spending. So what's your view on this one?
Yeah. So slightly limited exposure to Nepal, but I'll draw on partly my experience from India as well as partly what I just learned here from Chandan. If there is imbalance of Nepalese tourists going out and spending more than the tourists coming in, there is a large opportunity to promote domestic tourism. And that can help achieve that target without stressing the infrastructure as much, because those tourists, their expectations are a little bit different. Some of the aspects that others come to experience here, they are more used to it. Also, drawing from experience from India, until a few years ago, tourism was really meant for privileged top 5%, and that's why you relied much more heavily on foreign tourists than even local tourists. But what companies like OYO have done is democratized it further, where now more and more middle class is able to experience that. So, and when a middle class traveler is traveling, their expectation, their demands are not as high. They're not going to go spend as much money, that's understood. They're not going to demand as many facilities while they still expect a good experience. So having a balance of both high-end experiences, which do put more strain on infrastructure. You do have to develop infrastructure even for the middle-class experience, but mixing those two together, I think you can achieve it without reaching that tipping point where the experience takes a significant hit.
Thank you. This is our optimistic view. So let me go to Shradha. What's your view on this one?
Well, you know, the 2 million target was not just put there. Our tourism industry is like industry is mature enough to set a target like that, which is backed by a research, of course. And you know, you're talking about the existing infrastructure, and I would say, like with Nepal Tourism Board recently did a hotel survey, and the output was, you know, we could cater 2.5 million tourists with the existing hotel capacity. When I say like hotel capacity, we say, I mean, it involves the non-tourist hotels to the star categories, but doesn't involve, again, the community stays, Airbnbs, and the homestays. So in that accommodation part, we are right. And other things like amenities, we also talk about amenities, right? So what tourists will do after they come to Nepal. So activities wise also we are quite done. And the Ministry of Tourism has identified 100 new destinations for the VNY, the Visit Nepal 2020 campaign. And for the 2020, we will be, you know, announcing 20 mature destinations which we are promoting. So these destinations will be an alternative to destinations which are quite packed right now. So maybe an alternative trekking trail to the EBC or the ABC, and other sectors like will be involving and adopting more community sectors for this thing. Another thing is the capacity. You talked about the capacity building, and you know, Nepal has this 50 years of rich experience in the training sector. So we are also working towards, you know, developing, you know, training 2,000, you know, skilled laborers, skilled manpower in the tourism industry. The bottleneck, what we are facing is the infrastructure, both being aviation and the surface transport right now. But the Nepal government, saying that Nepal government and the Minister of Tourism has taken this in priority, and I would like to say that there's another second international airport coming up in Lumbini. That's the Siddhartha Gautam International Airport, which is scheduled to operate from 2019 September. And also we are doing a massive rehab of the Trivandrum International Airport. So it will be starting from early April and be going to July. So after the rehab, we are expecting that the international airport will be operational for 24 hours. So that's another, we'll have added flights from there, and which might decrease the congestion which we are facing right now. Talking about the surface transport, the government has again, put some roads into high priority. That includes the Bhaktapur Nagarkot road and the Kalanki Nobise road. So we are working on that, we are realizing it, and in the same time we are also working with the provincial government so that they could invest a lot in the infrastructure which could for the upcoming years.
Thank you, Shradha. When I was looking at Vijay, who was very curiously listening to these viewpoints, I'm pretty sure you have something to say on this one, and Monika too, briefly, because I want to take some questions from the Twitter. Some people have been asking some questions, so briefly, please.
Yeah. So well, I really can't comment because we are a very small company. We have 2 properties. We cater to high-end tourism. We have a total of 124 rooms to sell per day, so that's not a lot. Yeah, so I can only speak from my experience because we are known in the international market for upmarket Nepal tourism, and it's always the same questions that come to come to Nepal. Yeah, our clients, they want to come to Nepal. They see Nepal as a very beautiful country, and Nepal has a lot of goodwill abroad. The questions that come is, do we have the right infrastructure to cater to these people? Being flights, being roads, also, besides doing Annapurna and Everest and Chitwan, is there any new products coming up? So I'm always getting these questions with the facilities that are required for this type of tourism. So I think there is still potential to grow, because our average client stays about, you said 13 days, our average client from our perspective, what we cater to in the hotel stays about, maybe 5 nights in Nepal. So mostly it's used as a combination tour. So a lot of people, they combine our travel with Kathmandu, Bhutan, come back to Kathmandu, fly off. We have a lot of extension programs to India that we cater to. And I think that is not required. I think, these companies, they sell worldwide around. They bring really high value clientele, and also these people, they respect the culture, they respect nature, they want to, they want to experience this. But we get the same answer saying, Nepal program, Nepal is not ready to now for our clients. So we're doing an extension, we're doing a combination with Bhutan, because they feel that we're not ready. Now, we need to give that assurance. We need to be able to tell them, we are ready here, look at this, go here, experience this, come back, stay not only 4 nights, let's make it 7, let's make it 8, let's make it 9. And these guys, they do spend a lot of money in this country, and they are happy spending this because that's what they're looking for. So I think infrastructure-wise, I agree disagree a little bit. I think we are, from our perspective, not 100% ready. We still need to develop that. That needs to be a focus. There needs to be an incentive system. There needs to be a framework that pushes people also to cater towards these kind of experiences. And I said it doesn't have to be always high-end. These people also will stay in a decent experience for $100 or $50. They don't mind, but they want an authentic, quality, local experience. And waste is a big issue. natural footprint is a big issue. So they're all concerned about these things. So we need to assure them, you know what, when you come here, you get that solitude experience in the mountains, you get the real wildlife experience without having, traffic jams in the thing. That's what we need to assure them. And they will come, that I can guarantee, because they're looking for, but from their perspective, Nepal today is not ready. That's only what I can give as a feedback, but I cannot comment if it's a realistic goal or not.
Monica, please.
Thank you. Yeah, there's one particular issue which is very much concerning me. Also, having observed the developments in the last decades here, and that's related to infrastructure, road infrastructure. I'm aware it's a very sensitive issue, and I don't have a solution, but I just observe what's happening, or what has happened in, for example, Annapurna region, what's also happening in the Upper Mustang. There's road connection coming up, which is as such positive. It brings economic development, it brings mobility, it brings access, but it also destroys a lot of the landscape quality. And this is just an encouragement to choose or decide wisely where to build roads and where to keep the area in a, let's say, more pristine state, because particularly experiences like you mentioned, Vijay, the solitude experience, the wildlife experience, this natural beauty experience, there's a loss of that if you have a road. You have a lot, you gain a lot if you have a road, but you lose a lot. And this has to be a very conscious decision, which I believe should be taken by the local bodies, but in a very informed and very conscious way, not thinking quickly, oh yeah, let's have a road, let's build infrastructure, that's going to be a popular decision, people will be happy. But it's going to destroy a lot, which is not easy to repair, because once there's a road, there's a scar in the landscape. And imagine the Khumbu area having a highway up to Everest Base Camp. You lose those thousands of visitors who want to trek up there and have that experience of actually reaching that high altitude, beautiful place on their own sort of personal force. Yeah. So to me, that's one of the very, very important issues that Nepal has to think about and decide about wisely, and in partnership with whoever is concerned in taking these decisions.
A very interesting point. Now, these kind of natural cultural heritages are something like, once you lose it, you can't have them back. It takes like generations to recover those things. So it's a very sensitive matter. Sustainability should be a very, very important part of these things, right? So with that, we have around 7 minutes left. So probably 2 minutes each to our speakers on this very interesting question I got on Twitter. So let me read it out. One of the, I've got so many things on Twitter, I can only take one question, so it's kind of representative questions. This guy is asking, put yourself in a tourist's shoes. Where would you spend your money while in Nepal? Food, activities, entertainment, souvenirs? Isn't it same limited stuff wherever you go? There ain't enough choices. So I'd like your comment on this one, please.
Sure. I don't think it's one answer for everyone. Of course, different folks have different expectations. I think one of the key reasons folks come to Nepal is definitely for the unique experience mountainous terrain, Himalayas provide. So that definitely, I think, will be high on my list if I was coming to Nepal to spend time on experiencing outdoors, experiencing adventure activities. But that said, you can only enjoy it when you have a good quality accommodation you are living at, you have good food that you enjoy. If you're out there only for a day, you can probably get by with whatever you get to eat. But if you are there to experience for a week or more, you do need quality food. So it's not either or. I think people come here to experience Nepal's natural beauty, but all of the other things will have to be up to the speed at the same time.
Well, we've heard that people said that I come to Nepal for the mountains, but I will come back for the people. So the people, the Nepalese themselves has become a major product of Nepal these days. So I think if I were a tourist, and if I've heard that, I would love to be with the Nepali people, love to see what they are doing, what activities they're doing, and sharing my life. And like Nepal Tourism Board, we are trying to create this lifetime experience, give you one lifetime experience that could change your life, right? So we call it the hero experience. So I would maybe live with a community and try to get that. What is exactly that I'm missing in my country that I would gain from Nepal or I can learn from the Nepalese people? I think that would be my take.
Yeah, the question is quite interesting. Very negative outlook. I don't see it that negative. I think if you come to Nepal, there's so much experience you can have today to broaden your horizon in the international context. Getting to know the deeper meaning of the Nepalese culture is one aspect where I would, when I would travel to Nepal, be interested in. Of course, natural beauty, so going remote somewhere, seeing the mountains, experiencing the solitude of the mountains, and then of course hunting for the tiger, seeing the tiger. But I think you need to spend your money everywhere. It's a food experience, it's a stay experience, it's an experience that's going to the site. So you need to divide your money into each of the segments that gentleman was talking about.
Yeah, I believe this comment is targeted towards the question of uniqueness we've been discussing before. Nepal has, I don't know how many different ethnicities living in this area, and every ethnicity has their own food, their own architecture, their own products, their own culture, their own handicrafts. And I would just like to encourage all of these communities, all of these ethnicities to build on that uniqueness and to be proud of that uniqueness and to consciously work on that and offer that particular experience to the visitors. So I think food is one very, very interesting part of that. People come here and they say, oh, it's dal bhat everywhere. But dal bhat has so many different ways of cooking, so many different varieties of all these different tarkari, all these different achar, all these different... And I think there's even much, much more local food varieties available, but people lose them because everyone cooks dal bhat, or in the trekking areas, everyone has the standard menu of whatever they think the tourists want, but maybe the tourists want to experience the local food, which is very, very unique and you don't get anywhere else in the world, and maybe not even in the neighboring valley. So that's, I think, what is also being asked for in this comment.
Thank you. We have almost like 3 minutes left. Kind of very interesting point. It's, this question raises an issue about people's awareness of what's available in Nepal. People really don't know of these things. Limited to mountains, Lumbini, Pashupati, and these things. So many like ethnic varieties, local level promoting their own products. It's like culture of different ethnicity, not only food, like different cultures. So many things that you can experience, and that becomes a lifetime experience and gaining of something, right? So this is what countries like Japan have been doing, like local bodies. Like every local body, every city has a unique feature. Be it a small, cupcake with Pokemon on it, people would travel to that area and buy that one. And the aura around branding that thing, that's amazing. So let me ask a final round of questions very quickly, please. How can we leverage technology to create a good tourism product and an experience? Starting with Anil.
This is, of course, a key 4-day for us. Everything from how do you make sure all the things you promise they are delivered 100% of the time. So technology can come from monitoring the systems to predicting demand to making sure right quality of accommodation is provided to each guest based on their unique needs.
Everyone was talking about lifetime experiences, and they were saying like we have to make lifetime experiences, we have to come up with different experiences to cater the tourist. So I just want to say like, yes, we are doing that. The whole Visit Nepal 2020 campaign is focused on lifetime experiences. So now Nepal Tourism Board is working with names like TripAdvisor and Lonely Planet and Nat Geos. So we want to create 20 best experiences of Nepal. So we want them to create it, not just Tourism Board giving a random experience just like that, but we want the experience to come from the user-generated content. So we are doing it in So in a while you'll be getting it. And as I said, you know, that the travel operators and the trekking operators will be obsolete in some years. So we have to literally focus more on the digital platforms. So technology, I think, it has a major role to promote Nepal tourism.
Yeah, so technology, as Anil said, in the hotel context is used for standardizing a product, right? So for us, it's not that important because our products are not standardized. It's exactly the opposite. We try not to give the same experience in the other place. So it's two completely different experiences. We always try to highlight, okay, what we think is special about Kathmandu. Okay, it's architecture, culture, art, Dwarika, Himalayas, natural beauty, and the Himalayan lifestyle. So two different, very different approaches, so we don't need that standardization so much. So technology is not so much important as it would be for Anil. But it shows also that you can do business. I mean, they're very successful. We are also not that unsuccessful. So you can, you know, look at different aspects from all where you can start businesses in a different way, and there's space for everyone in this market.
I'm sorry, we have to quickly 30 seconds on this one.
Yeah, I have a quick one. Just don't forget the value of digital detox. Areas where there's no access. It's such a good break, such a good potential.
Yeah, thank you. I have to break it up because time's up. There are like two messages we got out of this. I'm kind of optimistic in a way, isn't it? So 2 million target is possible, and we saw it. But it's also possible that we can increase per capita visitor spending with the right kind of product and experience we give it to them. Plus, with these two, we can have it a sustainable, we can do these in a very sustainable way. So that, I think, is the takeaway of this thing. I'm very optimistic about tourism sector in Nepal. It's a very competitive, we have competitive and competitive advantage on it. So with that, thank you very much for listening. Thank you to the panelists for such an amazing discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Mr. Chandan Sapkota for moderating this session on tourism, product to experience. Thank you to all our panelists as well for this wonderful session. Nepal definitely has a huge potential when it comes to tourism, and those potential needs to be unleashed, of course, keeping in mind the sustainability factor of it. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for this panel.
The Kantipur